Welcome to the Digital Amateur Television Experimenters Night. This is VK7OTC, the club station of the Radio and Electronics Association of Southern Tasmania. Amateur radio is a worldwide hobby that has many different aspects. Digital television is just one of the many modes and areas that are covered. Maybe you're interested in becoming involved in the DATV Experimenters Nights. You realise that you do not have to be a radio amateur or need any ATV equipment to participate anywhere in the world. Also participate in the night by coming up to the Queen's Domain clubrooms. Yes, right on top of the Queen's Domain in the heritage-listed Coast Wireless Station. You never know, we might get you in front of the camera or behind doing one of the many roles during the night. We get underway with our program on a Wednesday night from 7:30 p.m. local time. We'll see you soon. This is VK7 OTC.
Hopefully we don't make any extra noises.
This is VK7OTC, the club station of the Radio and Electronics Association of Southern Tasmania, with our DATV Experimenters Night. And I've got Garry VK7JGD in the studio, I think for the first time. Is this the first time?
First time on air.
So welcome, Garry.
Don't
Welcome.
adjust your TV set, son. This is how I look.
That's perfectly fine. Now, one of the reasons I've got Garry in the studio is Gary's a bit of a guru on FT-897Ds. And to give, I suppose, to give people a bit of a clue as to, for those people who maybe don't know what an FT-897D looks like, it is probably described as the FT-817 with 100 watts. So it was 100 watts.
100 watts on HF and 6 metres.
Cool.
50 watts on VHF and 20 watts on UHF.
There you go. And it's got some DSP functionality, which I think they removed from the 8817. So
could well be.
Yeah. And it's a bigger, it is physically a bigger rig, and you can also put
batteries, so that you can have a shack in the box and take it with you wherever you go.
Correct.
When you run off the batteries, the power automatically gets dropped down to 20 watts maximum.
Okay.
And the screen automatically goes to turning itself off automatically after you've touched a few seconds after you've touched the control. It dims the light on the display to save power.
Oh, okay.
So
I didn't know that.
That's a setting that's in there.
Okay.
At the moment, I'm running on batteries, and I've got into the menu and just told it to stay on.
Okay.
Otherwise, it's going to be going off and on as we're touching things.
We're playing. So.
Yeah. So,
cool.
They're a good radio for what they really are. They apparently hit the market in 2002, and they stopped production. Depending on where you read, they stopped production in 2014 or 2016.
Okay.
So round about there, that was when they stopped, and that model that I've got there, according to the serial number, came out of the shop in 2007.
Okay.
So if you can pick one up at a good price, they're a good buy because they HF all the way through 6 metres, VHF UHF, and there's a few little accessories. Downside of the batteries are you have to buy a charger to charge the batteries, and that all adds to the cost, but you don't need the batteries. But they are handy. Back in the days, in its day, before analyzers and that were cheap, they were good to have batteries, and you just walk out and put it under your antenna when you're playing with your antenna, and away you go. That plug there takes the same plug that runs the radio, so you just disconnect your radio and put your power supply into that, and the other end's looks like a microphone plug, so you can't talk into it, but that goes into the jack at the back of the radio. We might be able to turn that around a bit later to have a look, but there's 2 of those, one for each battery. You don't need the 2 batteries packs, but I've got both there.
So in effect, you unplug your radio from your power supply unit, plug it in here, and then plug this into the battery socket on the back.
That's it, and you can either leave it there charging away, or you can talk on it at the same time.
Right.
But I should imagine you're probably limited to your 20 watts or so. But yeah, you wouldn't want to use too much power while you're doing it, but you can. Or if you've got 2 battery packs, you can run one battery into the charger, or the charger into one battery pack, and talk on the other one.
And this is actually a Yaesu accessory, or is this a third party?
No, that's Yaesu, that one.
Oh no, it is Yaesu.
Yes, it's Yaesu.
Well, true.
So it's got a few dollars onto it, but and the batteries were a bit of a thing. You could either buy Yaesu batteries at a fairly high price, or you could buy aftermarket ones. And the aftermarket ones were about half the price, but they weren't half as good. They were a bit of lucky dip. So my battery packs have actually been rebuilt.
Right.
So
and rebuilt locally by Active.
Yeah, rebuilt locally by Active. They put in all good quality cells, and it starts off at about 16 volts now, and work your way down. So you've got from 16 down to about 11 volts to play with.
And what sort of battery technology is it? Is it
nickel metal
hydride?
Okay. So cool. That's they're a good machine. I actually had the power go off when I was doing a broadcast one Sunday, and I swapped it straight over to the internal batteries, and that was on the old batteries, I think. So I broadcast. Went from 80 watts down to about 20 watts, and at the end of the broadcast somebody mentioned that conditions had changed a bit and the signal had dropped down, but nevertheless it was all good, so I didn't like to tell them any different. So anyway, enough of that. Now there are a few little issues with these radios you have to look out for. One of them is the display can get some vertical lines on it, and occasionally they can be a pain in the bottom. I put up with mine for a little while, and I thought I'd better do something about it before they stop making the parts. But anyway, that, if you put that over on your screen.
Now we've got Chris Webb on streaming. We've got Tom Pearce from the Snowy Mountains. We've got Anthony AG, and we've got Ken VK7DY.
There you go.
All watching. So good evening, people. And just a reminder to people, if you are watching, please let us know where you're coming in from, and if you've got any questions, please ask them. Now, what are we looking at here, Gary?
We're looking at my old front panel. So I've already got my new Yaesu panel is still available. I replaced that towards the end of last year, so before Christmas 2021. I checked up that they were available, and I thought I'll buy one before they become unavailable. So
and what sort of cost are we talking?
I'd be guessing at the moment, but I think it was around $250. So you got a new panel, new screen, and you get all your new knobs that come, new controls that come with it, and you just put your old knobs on it, and away you go again. So that one there would ease. If the other one smoked itself, I could still use that one. Yeah. It's just that it's got a few
these are the buttons that sit behind the things on the front panel.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah. You can replace that whole thing in about half an hour if you're careful. I spent more time probably cleaning the knobs than it did to unplug those 3 plugs. So really all you need is just a screwdriver and undo those little plugs and one cable tie, I think, to tidy it all up when you finish. Yeah, so that's that. You can, if you end up with a radio that's, or you've got the possibility of buying one that's got a few faults on it.
The screen things.
Prison bar effect, you know.
Yeah.
You can bargain and haggle with the seller and see how you go, you know.
Okay.
If you're not good at haggling, or you could probably watch, what is it, Life of Brian, is it, with the market scene where they haggle? You can get a lesson on haggling. Now, the other issue that turns up occasionally is the filters. That I think you can put those on your little screen as well if you like. They're at the opposite end of the spectrum in some ways, because the front panel's expensive to buy and you can do it yourself. It's plug and play, but the filters are very, very cheap.
And very small.
Very small, but they're all soldered in with lead-free solder, and you need a steady hand, you need a good hot iron that can melt the solder, and you have to do little tricks like your old filters. You cut them all away in bits and pieces, nibble at them and suck all the bits out with the vacuum cleaner to get rid of them, so that you're just left with the pins on your board, and then try and melt some lead solder onto it to try and lower the melting point of the lead-free stuff. But anyway.
And I assume, given these have got 455 on them, it's 455 kilohertz. These are IF frequencies.
Yeah, they're lettered underneath. I think it's got a letter on each one, isn't it? Yeah, GW and Echo and something else there. So they're all marked where they go. They're easy enough to do. It's the hardest parts, the soldering and desoldering, where you have to be careful because you're close to service mount components.
Other components.
Other stuff, yeah. So if you're not good at soldering and you don't have a hot iron, you leave it alone and get somebody else to do it.
Yep.
Anyway, so that's it. If you can get a good unit, and I'm sure there's good units around that aren't being used much, but the one you got, Justin, sounds like a bit of a bargain in the end. So there are, even if you get a faulty one.
Correct. And the fault with mine was memory. It is a known fault if you start reading where it doesn't remember anything. And as it turns out, it wasn't just the E² ROM that stores all that. It was also the CPU as well. So that was a fairly expensive fix, but still, I bought it cheap, and the fix still meant that it was a reasonably cheap radio. Yeah,
well, that's when you sort of feel good after you can fix something up that you're not throwing a lot of bit of money at. Anyway, as we said before, it's 100 watts, 50 watts and 20 watts. There's over 200 memories available in there that can do everything. So a lot of people complain about too many memories, too fiddly, but if you sit down with your book and channelise it all up so you can store all your common frequencies and the ones that you're likely to be using in your memories, that's a lot of frequencies to use up 200. And there's actually more than 200, because you've got, what have we got? We've got some edges for scanning, which is separate. You've got a home, every band has a home channel, so you've got one home channel for HF, one for 6 metres. So there's 4 home channels. So you've got one for HF, one for 6 metres, one for VHF and one for UHF. So that's on a hot button on the right hand side. You just hit that and away you go. The one in the middle there up the top.
Yes, the home button.
When we get around the other side, I'll just have a quick run through. So there's lots of things to do, lots of things to play with. When it comes out of the box, it has the extended menu, I think, turned off, so a lot of the things that I might be playing with tonight, a few of them will be on the extended menu, so we'll have to extend that out to the full setting. So maybe I go around the front of the radio now and just poke a few things and try not to get in the way. So what the aim is, I'll just show you how to program up the ABC hot buttons, which you can tell them to do anything pretty much, and we'll go from there.
Cool.
So if I run out of time, the man with the long hook will grab me around the neck and pull me
exit
aside.
Stage left.
Yes. So I'll just try and get into position here without.
We'll just set things up, and We've got Gary down there on the controls. No, that's good, Gary. That's
Okay.
excellent. That's good.
The observant viewers will notice that there's actually a meter beside it as well.
Yes.
Now,
What's that about?
That's an aftermarket unit.
Okay.
I did see one on the internet that had Yaesu on it. So I'm not sure whether Yaesu actually made an aftermarket unit, but that...
So what does it actually do? What does it give you?
It mimics the meter that's on the radio. So it's mimicking everything. It's on the display. It's on a lead. If you just go back a bit there, Justin.
Yeah.
I'll just lift the radio up. And secret funny business underneath the main knob. That plugs in under the front.
Okay.
And it has a little light.
Ooh. Okay. Okay.
Probably... Oh, it actually does show it. Yeah.
Oh,
good.
well, truly.
All good. So let me see, what can we do? We can what can we do? We can turn up the gain, or So there
we go.
So that's got all the scales on it for what's on the main meter. So if you like looking at a meter and you don't like looking at the little display,
Yep.
that's an option. Probably wasn't cheap, and I don't think they're available anymore. So
Okay.
if you can find a man that has the meter as well as the radio and haggle.
Of course.
You might get yourself a bargain. So anyway,
I love it.
so that's another option. So there's a few things to spend money on top of the radio. You've got the meter, you've got your batteries, you've got your battery charger. All adds to the cost, but the radio works perfectly without all that sort of stuff.
Okay.
Starting at the top, you've got a switch that switches between the two batteries. So you've got A and B batteries there.
Yep.
And the little light at the front indicates which one you switched on to. There's an orange and a green light there, and they swap from depending on which battery you're on. Now, let me just look at my cheat sheet here. Right, this is the only radio that I can think of that has an off-on switch that has two functions, apart from off and on. So if we, let me see, first of all we'll go, and the function button is here, and that gets a hammering whenever you're playing around, because you have to confirm everything you're doing.
Yep.
So that's in the main menu, it's menu 082 there,
Okay.
and that says over here SSB step, so you've got options there.
And your main dial.
And your main dial,
Okay.
you've got the three options on SSB, and they also work on the other modes as well. So that's confirmed at 1 kilohertz now. So if I rotate my knobber, we're going up in 1.
In 1 kilohertz. Okay.
But if I tap the purple off on button, the second function comes in, and you get a little running man down in the bottom here. So you can double that, so you're going up in 2s. Or if you're set on 2.5, you're going up in 5s, or you're going up in 10s. So that's a quick way of getting through the menu. So
I didn't know that.
the little running man is very popular if you want to go from one end of the scale to the other.
Okay.
So we can take him out of space now. Another thing people complain about a little bit is the size of the screen. You can't make the screen any bigger, but at the press of a button with a small, what I call the front menu, the little menu that's run by the ABC buttons.
Okay.
If you're on, what are we on? We're on the correct one, but I'll just have a look. Yeah, memory I,
Okay.
MFI.
Yep.
Start again. So we're actually controlling memory I, and on button C, DSP display, touch that and you've got some bigger figures for those that like.
Okay.
So
Easier
on
to see.
this model, the 897, it just stretches the figures, but on the 857 it increases the size of the figures, but because the screen's smaller you lose some information, I think, off the top on the mobile radio, and I think it's the mode
Okay.
disappears.
Yep.
So you've got to remember what mode you're in, or you've got to flick back. So that's a little bit about the display. There is a colour chart that maybe Justin can just throw up at the moment. There are settings for changing the colour on the screen.
Ooh, sorry for that transition.
Now that chart is available on the internet, so that in one hit tells you what you can do with the colours on this radio.
AE7Q.
It's a bit vague when you're just running by the information that's in the book, but that tells you all the possibilities. Now, some of them we're not really interested in, but on mine, I've got mine set at the moment. It's changing colour from what the meter says. So when the meter gives me a strong signal on receive, it'll change colour.
Ah, okay.
So you can duplicate that by turning the gain down. So if that was a strong signal, I'm red.
Yeah, okay,
And
okay.
if you're buying a second-hand radio, actually, while we're looking at that bar across the bottom should be a complete bar like that. If you're looking at a second-hand radio and that bar is in sections, it's a quick way of checking to see if it's got any lines going up the screen.
The LCD problem.
So it makes it a quick, sneaky, cunning way of checking the radio that you might be looking at.
Actually, have you got R2 programmed into this? Have you got?
I do have R2 programmed into that.
Oh, because I can give you a signal on R2 and you can see it change.
Well, let's see what we can do.
We can.
We'll have to remember how to work it.
Oh
dear me.
Sorry, I'll put you on the spot here.
Precious. Here we go. So we've got to go to memory. There we go. Somebody's.
Oh, well, we've just got an ident.
There you go. Somebody's got an ident.
We've just got an ident.
Yeah.
Now, I'm just going to key it on. There you go. And key it off. So there you go.
The other thing, when you've got your meter ready to read the meter.
Yep.
On transmit, it shows the SWR as well. So if you're talking and you're keying up and your screen's staying green, you're all good. If your screen goes red, your antenna's fallen off, or you're in in deep doo-doo. So it's handy in the car version, the 857, because at a glance, screen goes red, you know there's some trouble. You've got to sort your antenna out.
Okay.
So
that's good.
There's a few things there, but there's a lot of options and a lot of colours that are hard to make any sense out of. But people that are working in different ambient light or different eyesight issues, probably some of those colours are quite good. Now, I did mention earlier that there's 200 memories. You can see I've tried my memory storage is rather ad hoc, as all random, but you see there I've got memory 2, which is repeater 2, repeater 1, Mount Faulkner. So I've labelled, to simplify it all, I've labelled all my memories so that I can just flick through and go to where I want to go.
Okay.
So you can even listen on 27 meg, so if you put in channel 35, it's a quick way of listening to see what 10 metres is like.
Okay.
10 metre broadcast, Sunday morning,
Yep.
9 o'clock to 10 o'clock. Callbacks welcome. So working your way through, I've gone to the trouble of labelling it all up. It's a little bit fiddly, but you can do it. So if we got time, I might show you, or we can do it another time. But anyway, so there you go. And the best part about the Yaesu is it's only showing you the memories you've got things stored into. It's skipping over all the empty ones.
Okay.
Whereas on the 7300, from what I remember, you go through all the blank ones to get to where you want to go. So you have to actually store everything one at a time. So that's pretty much got to that. We'll just go back up here, maybe to the start. Now, the other thing I'll show you is the home button. you can store in anything you want in your home button, but I just put in the 2 metre call channel on that band. If we go up one band to, we must have keyed up something. So, I'm not sure. Oh, sorry, we've gone to VFO. Hang on. Let's just go back down.
And it's showing you that there's activity on that.
Yeah, so
that particular
broadcast band 101.7 red. Just change bands. Might be. Oh, here we go. Yeah, home call channel 52525 is the home channel on 6 metres, and on it doesn't matter now, but on the HF band I have a Queensland repeater in on 10 metres.
Okay.
So you can hit that at any time you like. There we go. So VK4RST comes in pretty well at our place when there's a bit of skip about, so you can just keep that in your home channel and hit that once in a while when you think there's some 10 metres around, or just keep it ticking over on that. So that's 4 extra channels on top of the 200 you've already got. So there's plenty of channels to play with. Now, if we go to, let me think. On the first menu, the ABC menu, there's about 17 settings, I think. But anyway, if you go to setting Q, you can actually make these hotkeys when you're sitting on Q. So button A is memory 75, so if I touch that straight away, it gives me a shortcut straight to RF power.
Okay.
And you can fiddle that straight away. But you have to, whatever you're setting it to, you always have to confirm it with your function key. 81, mic gain, same deal. Straight in there and you can adjust your mic gain. And processor level, 60. You can hotkey to get into that.
Ah, so there's a voice processor in the 897.
There is.
Ah, now
but
that
you have to turn it on.
Okay.
That's the cunning thing. At the moment it's telling me that I'm adjusting the settings, but it might not necessarily be turned on. So what the deal is then is you go back to your little menu, and you've got a timeout on these settings here, so you've got to decide where you want to go straight away. So you go to the one that's labelled MFC C processor, hit that, hit that, he says. I'm just not too sure. That's probably because we're on the wrong mode, maybe. There we go.
USB. Oh, there we go.
There we go. So the processor's engaged when the parentheses are around it.
Okay.
So when there's no parentheses, you can go into the settings and you can adjust your settings, but you've not got any processing. So you have to hit that, put the parentheses on, and if you want to adjust something, you can. I think if you can hold it in, it gets you back into the processing level as well. But you have to have the parentheses set on setting C before anything's happening. So there's a couple of little traps there on the processor.
Okay.
But anyway, that's.
And this is one of the things that differentiates the 897 from the 817. You've got a DSP in it.
Yeah.
And you've got a processor in it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. The factory default setting's 50. So you've got a bit there to play with. So you between 50 and back down. And the other thing is, if you go down to 0, you've got nothing happening at all. You've got no audio, so you can't just say we've got no processing. You've just got nothing. So you've got to have a little bit of something happening there to get it all working. Otherwise, you're not talking to anybody anyway. So I usually run mine round about there, about 60.
Cool.
So you just depend on what you're doing.
We might think about wrapping it up at that.
Yep.
Gary.
All good.
So but you just wrap up, I suppose, on what you want to do.
Well, that's probably all we can really do at the moment. If we've run out of time, we've run out of time. But it's just quite a versatile radio. You've just got to get your head around the menus. One thing I probably could show you just before we wrap up is
go for it.
Go back to the main menu so once we go up to menu 1, 91's the last, so there's 91 menus. Menu 1 is the extended menu on, so when it comes out of the box, that's off, and you can turn that off.
Okay.
So that gets you through all the menus you're going to use regularly, but to get into some of the other ones that are not used very often, you need to extend the menu. So that's how it is. If you can't get to where you want to go, just check that you're not on the extended menu, that you are on the extended menu.
Now we do have a question, Gary, from Anthony. What settings do you use for mic gain, compression, etc.? It looks like the function's similar to my 891. So.
All right. Well, going back to where are we? Now you got me confused now.
That's all right.
We'll go back to our hotkey. So, as I said on mic gain, I usually sit around 60, 65.
Yep. And that's with the standard Yaesu microphone.
That's with the standard Yaesu microphone. That's the only mic I have that'll suit the Yaesu.
Okay. And
the processing level, as I said earlier, was about 60. If I'm using this radio for a broadcast, I usually back the processing down to probably 45 or 40 or something like that.
Okay.
But that's all depends on how much audio you're feeding into the whole thing anyway.
Yep.
Okay. But it's all plug and play. Everybody's voice is different, and best idea, I guess, really is to listen to yourself on another radio with some headphones.
Well, truly.
We'll get a mate who knows your voice to tell you how you're going.
Yeah, how you sound, whether it sounds like you or not.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. All good. Okay, well, thanks, Justin.
That is fantastic, Gary. I think we might maybe we'll schedule another one.
We'd maybe just pick on half a dozen things or less than that, and just focus on. On 2 or 3.
So those people who and thank you from Anthony, and also thank you from Tom Pearce, who's up in Tom Pearce, who's up in the Snowy Mountains, who watches each Wednesday night. So thanks, Tom. Great presentation on the 897. Thank you. So what we might do is ask those people actually out there what they want to see in depth in an 897, and we can tailor some the presentation for it. So
as long as they don't ask anything about digital. Get a digital man in.
No. Well,
Justin's fixing that.
Okay. Have I got a deal for you? My 897, I have actually ordered a digi-rig, the USB to control an audio interface that I'm intending to put in where the battery box is in the 897 because it very nicely fits, and I don't have the charging connectors on mine because I haven't used batteries on mine, so I'm just going to pop one of those and put the interface velcroed in so that the USB sticks out the back of one of those holes.
That's excellent. You're the first person that I've ever heard using the battery space for anything. Even all these preppers, they could be putting sandwiches and Kit Kats and all sorts of things in there, but they don't. Nobody mentions that. But so you're making use of the space.
So when that interface arrives and I actually put it in there, I'll bring it in, and that can be one of the things we show next time. So fantastic, Gary. Thank you very much. And I hope people have learnt a little bit more about 897s and how versatile they are. So fantastic.
Good.
Now, you're welcome to stay. Just let me, because the second part of our presentation, and of course one of the things that I certainly should have done earlier on, before we started, is we've had a request for actually starting our program with an acknowledgement of country. So one of the ones that I have managed to find is in recognition of the deep history and culture of this island. We'd actually like to acknowledge and pay our respects to all Tasmanian Aboriginal people and the traditional owners of the land upon which we are showing this presentation. So that's our acknowledgement of country, and we will be doing that every week in our presentations. So stick around, Gary, because one of the and great job from Lionel, who is KJ7OFH, and also Chris Webb down at Oyster Cove. So there's our connection with Tasmanian Aboriginal history in Oyster Cove.
The Oyster Cove mob.
The Oyster Cove mob. And we've got Warren from Casey. So down in Antarctica. Thanks Warren. Great demo. Thanks Gary. So good stuff. All right. Now our next segment. Now this will be a bit of a test for us, I think. If we go to now we have Peter. And do we have Peter on the Loudon boomer? Have we got you, Peter?
Yes, we hope so.
Oh, there you go. Can you hear us?
I can.
Fantastic. Well, welcome, Peter. We've got VK7KPC, Peter Dodd, from up in the Northern Tasmanian Amateur Radio Club clubrooms. So. And now, Peter, if you've seen our videos of one of our presentation nights, about a year ago, was it, Peter? I reckon it was about a year ago.
About that.
Yeah. Peter is a collector of military radios, and along with the military radios, and there's one that he prepared earlier. Oh, very good. Oh, very good, Peter. I love it.
Okay. Not discussion.
And one of the things that Peter, we organised with Peter to do tonight is he has some very interesting Morse code keys that come with these radios. And so, without further ado, I'll hand over to Peter to show us these fascinating Morse code keys and what they're all about. So over to you, Peter.
Okay. We have here a key of plug number 9, 1944-ish vintage. I'll show you another one that's got another one key I've got that's got the same mechanism, so I don't have to undo the box.
Okay.
But the snaps are not original, but they are the right age, and because it came without straps. So I found a picture of one of these with straps, and these look pretty close. So it thanks the marvellous eBay. I've tried them. Don't think you can see the age on the back.
Oh, okay. Fantastic.
But yeah, that. So I sort of out of the stores from somewhere. So
yep. Now that strap goes round your leg. So
yep. We'll see if we can demonstrate that without.
Here we go. One you prepared earlier. Yeah.
There we go.
Oh, there we go.
You can see well experienced in doing video presentations.
Oh, there we go.
And it has been used in anger on a New Zealand full government contact. I think I managed to make one contact with it.
Okay.
With the Codan 6801 that I've modified to produce Morse.
Okay.
So, yeah, let's say the two straps goes around your leg and standard plug on the end.
So standard quarter-inch.
That came as like that, so
Okay.
that's the original 44-ish. They were used on the wireless set 22, 122, that sort of vintage.
Okay.
And there's a big number 9, there's 1 to 8, so they're all very similar.
Right. Now,
But,
when they were actually used, I assume it was the radio operator would have the man pack on and have that bolted to it, have that strapped to his leg, and be like running through the jungle with the man pack on and the key on his leg, and just kneel down and start keying. Is that the sort of operation? Also?
I think the radios then precluded running anywhere with them on your back.
Okay.
But there's one story that they've used in aircraft, that's why the strap's there, but I think it's probably more like you're in the back of a vehicle.
Right.
Bouncing around, that's why it's strapped to your leg.
Yeah, okay.
So,
Provide a little bit of a stable platform for you to try and... Yeah. Okay.
Okay. The next one is the aforementioned PRC 74 set.
Ah, yes. I recognise that.
The mechanism is pretty much identical to what's in that box.
Yeah.
None of your wussy coil springs. There's a nice solid spring under the arm there.
Okay.
No, you sort of see it.
Work of engineering.
On steady. Sort of see it.
So now that's a J45 key, isn't it? That's a, I think. It's a.
I like that question.
The only reason
it came with that other set there, and again it's on the leg.
I love it.
You can sort of see where it's adjustment key.
Yep.
It's pushing down on the spring, basically.
I love it.
So I think that's what gives you your pressure. But yeah, and it's a slightly more modern connector.
Oh, that's a bit tricky.
Yeah. Okay, that connector is the same as used in the Vietnam vintage radios like the 77 set
Okay.
and the like. This camera's fun. As you can see, normally stuck up on the bottom of the screen for joking. Okay, moving right along. This is a set from a Klansman radio.
Okay. So English.
English,
Yep.
Falklands vintage.
Yep.
You've got adjustments, easy adjustments for tension and gap.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good idea to bring that to light.
Yeah.
Thank you for that suggestion. and just to keep them standard, different standard.
Okay.
And again, this one straps onto your leg with a slightly more modern,
Clip.
easy adjustable
Okay.
Doubles as a tourniquet.
Yeah.
thingy.
Gary just said doubles as a tourniquet in case you get your leg cut off. Yeah.
Yeah, when you shot my leg, yeah. Okay. That's 1, 2, 3. Okay. Next one.
Oh, that's cute.
That's and again is a good connector,
Okay.
but they were used on the Australian PRC F1 HF radio, which is 70s, 80s vintage.
Okay.
I know it is a third one, they're not light.
Yeah,
But
okay.
they're lighter than the real early one. So,
But
now
still,
for me,
CW in the 70s or 80s, so there's still CW being used in the 70s and 80s. So,
I got paid to learn Morse in the reserve. So
well, there you go. I love it.
that particular thing is used with this nice little device.
Oh, that's nice. What's
This
that?
is a PRC 64 HF radio,
Okay.
AM and CW, about 5 watt CW, and it's got its own inbuilt Morse key.
Ah. Okay.
That one, the other one I plug in because it works a lot easier.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
this Morse key's fitted into it. 4 channels, crystal lock obviously, but you don't have to, what am I saying? You've got channels 1 to 4 and transmit and 1 to 4 and receive,
Yep.
and you can mix, so you don't have to be on channel 1 on both.
Yeah.
You can
Okay.
transmit on channel 1 and receive on channel 2 if you wish.
So sort of pseudo split.
Yeah, well, completely separate circuits.
Yeah. Okay.
So, nice little battery test light. This bit here is the on-off switch. So when you open the box, it's on.
Okay. I love it.
And
And is the batteries in that box or in the batteries in another box?
the batteries are there.
Oh,
But
there.
that's a LiPo battery pack I've made up because the original battery is hen's tooth.
Yep.
That. So that's 4, 12 and 24 volts.
Okay. Okay.
So that's a bit better than 135 volts in the PRC 810 radios.
Well and truly.
I didn't bring that battery tonight. So, now the one thing I feel bad, which is aggressive for Morse a bit here, but so that's the antenna feed cable
Okay.
on a spool roll,
Yep. I love it.
and got 2 of them with the antenna on it, which has got
The
distance markers on it.
yep. Okay.
So, now that one you can have, well, you probably wouldn't use it while you're running, but yeah, it's light enough to be carried,
Yep.
and it's designed to be there for while you're out for a week or so, and you've got a couple of batteries, and yeah.
Fantastic.
So, whereas the one on the floor, which is similar vintage,
Yep.
at about 30 watts, yes, you wouldn't want to be carrying that out
Yeah.
for 2 or 3 weeks.
You
Normally, a nice vehicle to carry it with you.
right. You become
I mean,
very, very fit.
It's got a backpack and everything, and all. It's got a whip aerial and similar sort of blind out aerials, but yeah, slightly different use.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. All right.
And that, I think, covers the Morse keys that I've got.
Well,
other than the proper picture one.
I've bought a few from my collection, Peter, that I'm hoping you can tell me a little bit more about. So,
that one probably says it's the same. It says number 9 on it.
That's the number 9 on it. Yes.
So
number 9 with the the straps still on it.
Straps, yeah.
No.
So I've got a fairly good version of that then. So they're probably not completely identical, but they're close enough to being the same.
Yeah. Okay. So that's the number 9. That's the same, effectively the same key.
Yeah.
Okay.
And if you open it up, you'll see that it's very similar to that.
Okay. Because yeah, the label on it just says key and plug assembly number 9.
Yeah, that's about it.
So that's the
same basic set.
That's the first one. The second one, this is the one that I'm hoping you can tell me about. This is the ZA29007. Again, the leg straps on it, but it has a really crazy feed through connector on it. That has 4. It's got 4 pins on it this side, and then if you turn it around, it's got 4 of the same socket on this side. So I assume this is like a feed through. One plugs in this side, one plugs in this side, and it goes through. But it also has the two terminals, the 2 screw terminals. So for the Morse key as well. So.
Okay, the screw terminal is obviously for the Morse key. The 4-pin plug is so I've got similar socket on my 122 set.
Okay.
Some of the sets were a very similar thing. You had one wire coming out of it, and then it split into 2.
Yep.
And it had the key, the plug that fitted in the 4-pin.
Yep.
And a normal Morse code plug. And I think on those, the 4-pin set was used to actually switch the transmit on so that you could actually do Morse code.
Okay.
And I think it was also the microphone input.
Oh, okay, okay.
So the 122 set uses that socket for power.
Yep.
But I think I'm sure that Wallace set 88 rings a bell, but they had that sort of thing on. So
okay.
it's probably just a little bit later, but similar.
And very nice movement on it as well. So yeah.
I think the movement I'm not sure the movement's going to be the same inside.
Right.
But there are several different versions.
Okay.
Some of them are more technical than others.
And
but I'm guessing that the socket thing is so that you can, the operator can be there and the CEO or officer commander can plug in and have a listen as well.
yeah, okay. And what sort of era are we talking here, Peter?
I'm thinking that's just after World War II, or it may be World War II.
Yeah, okay.
So that's sort of vintage.
Okay.
But don't quote me there too much. But there are lots of websites that have got lots of Morse code pictures and type and stuff, so it'll probably appear there somewhere.
Okay. Fantastic. So that's the second one. And your J45 key, I actually have the original packaging, which is American. This is the American, and it's the KY 116U. So this is very similar to what you had. It comes in the original packaging that's got all very done up. It's in it would, I assume, originally been the hermetically sealed bag, and then the packing, and exactly the same as what you just showed, which is, and it's the KY116U with a J45 key. Now the confusing thing is this is a J45 key with J37 molded into it. But it's the plastic version, of the J37, which goes over your leg. I tell you what, you have to have a pretty small leg. It's pretty tight.
This is the KY562U.
Oh, there you go. So KY116. It's the, hang on, it's the Associated Industries, North Hollywood, California.
Yes. Lots of people make things for them.
So, but the interesting thing is it all folds up like that in the packaging, and then you pull it round, and it's got a little clip on the base of it, and it clips in.
Yep, exactly the same.
Yep, exactly the same. Well and truly, I don't. It didn't come with a cord. I assume the radio manufacturer probably put that on, but it's in. This has never been used, Peter. This is straight out of the store. Because it hasn't got a scratch or a chip on it, and can't plug it into anything because it hasn't got the cord. So, but anyway, that's the and I bought this. I actually bought this when I was into collecting Morse keys in a big way from Herman Williamson, who is VK2IXV, and he did an article in AR magazine on it. And showed the J45 was made in World War II until the late 1940s and was used with a GRC 9 made from the mid 1946 up until 1980 with the radio set, the GRC 26D and the GRC 106. Now, do they mean anything to you, Peter?
The GRC 106 is a nice 400 watt HF set.
Okay.
330 meg. Sits well in the back of the Land Rover.
Okay.
Not at the back of the back.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, we use them in Darwin. It's the base radio, so.
Okay.
But yeah, they're quite big. And there is one at the Go and Tell.
Oh, Kim brought it along. That weighed a ton.
Yeah, I think that one Kim bought.
Yeah.
2 sections, weighed a ton. Yeah.
Fantastic. So that was my show and tell, Peter. So thank you.
I've got some light stuff that's sort of straight out of the stores too. So, anyway, yeah, so this little radio is almost straight out of a package because there's hardly any marks on it. So it did belong to some group, but yeah, it hasn't had much use. So
there you go. Thank
you for that.
And thank you. We had now David Wilson is on, and he's just said you've got me interested now. So we might have another Morse collector in our midst. So hello David. And Warren's had to take off and have dinner down in Antarctica. So he'll catch up on the rest of the presentation later. So there you go. So thank you very much, Peter. And we should do this more often, where we join North and South with some things of interest. So should be good.
Yeah, well, I hope we did get the YouTube session running out in the other half.
Okay.
Other half the hall. So hopefully they can watch it.
Fantastic.
Okay.
And David's just said no, not a key collector, but into SDRs. So there you go.
No, need to be a key user.
Well and truly. CW rules. Yep. I love it.
That's all.
Fantastic. Thank you, Peter. Have a good night, and say hello to everyone up in the north for us.
Yep, we'll do.
Okay. Catch you around. Cool. That's our presentation for tonight. Now, one of the things I'll just give you a bit of a hint about. Yes. Okay, we're on the right thing. We did have a bit of a review of some of the articles in AR magazine. Now we've run out of time, so we'll hold those over until next week. But quick update on the 160 metre antenna, vertical antenna that I've been letting you know about. I now have a couple of decodes, both from America. AG0X, which is 15,319 kilometres, a decode of -25, and I mentioned last time I also have a decode from W1CK, which is about 13,000 kilometres, -27 whisper. So doing okay with that particular antenna.
Excellent.
These two came out of nowhere, and it wasn't grey line. There wasn't something I could sort of pin it to. But it's absolutely astonishing. I suspect this particular antenna and the decodes, and I certainly have made a couple of FT8 with Indonesia and New Zealand, and a couple of most of the Australian states. So there you go. Now, if Gary, you can there's a post bag in the box. If you can grab that for us, I'm just going to give you a bit of a taster of what we're doing next time. He unwraps now, I'll just hand this to Gary, and Gary can give you an idea about how heavy it is.
Yeah, quite weighty for its size.
Well and truly. Now, we're talking about, after our presentations on our WIA virtual conference, we were talking about a little bit of the crystal detector that and I mentioned I didn't have an actual Galena Crystal. Well, I now do have a Galena Crystal.
Big one.
This one's come from Peru via Melbourne. And this is a classic. Quick recap. Galena is lead sulfide, so PBS, and it presents as a cubic crystal, so a square type crystal, and you can see the crystalline structures in here. Lots of great facets on here that you can put a cat's whisker onto. So the intention is to mount this in a little holder and get a cat's whisker and try and find a face where we can receive some broadcast stations. Actually, you can also, there's a couple of surfaces here where you can see some chalcopyrite and some other what they call fool's gold. You can see there it is there. That's the sulfide ore assemblages. This is the sort of stuff that they pull out of Rosebery. just to give people. This is the stuff they actually throw away because they can't use it.
Apart from crystal set, people would love it.
Well and truly. So anyway, that's Galena Crystal that we're going to do some experimenting with to see how well we can make a little crystal set and try and demonstrate how difficult it is to try and find the optimum surface on that crystal for reception, and especially when you think about it, you've got somebody down in Antarctica where you're really not quite sure whether the radio is working to start with. You don't have a reference signal that you can peak up the cat's whisker to. So it's definitely fraught with a lot of difficulty. But anyway, that's
They made it work.
They well and truly made it work. Now next week, we have an interview with Warren Nichols, VK7 Whiskey November and VK0 Whiskey November, who was on earlier. For reminder, Warren's down at Casey Station, Casey Base, down in Antarctica, and we're going to do an interview with him next week. And we also may have a Zygu G90 transceiver in the studio to play with. So watch this space. So and our crystal radio. So that's our segment for next week. We might even get Garry back for another session.
That'd be good. I can bring my crystal radio in.
Oof, fantastic. Excellent. Does it have a...
It does. It's not as big as yours, though. Mine's small.
So size isn't everything. I must admit this is a fair degree of fair amount of crystal. I suspect what they would have done with that in the past is put it under a great big hammer and broken it up into much smaller cubes, and then sold it off for probably a lot of profit. But anyway,
my crystal set would have been made in the early days here locally in Hobart, I reckon.
I love it. I love it.
Still works.
And the crystal set I'm going to show you is one that I actually made a little while ago. Actually, when we had the ATV studio in the next in the old garage, I wound it onto a pencil.
Oh yeah, very good.
And then had a little brass slider that went along it, so you could actually tune it. So there you go. So now, hang on, Ken, we have one at the Hackerspace. Okay, fantastic. Crystal set at the Hackerspace. And thank you. A G90. Sorry, not a crystal. A G90. So fantastic. Excellent little radio, I've been led to believe. So and let people know the Hackerspace on the main road at Newtown. It's just on the corner of the turn into St John's. And there's a big Hobart Hackerspace on the fence. So that's and Ken VK7DY is heavily involved. So is Brian as well. So there you go. VK7HHS. So Hobart Hackerspace. I love it, Ken. Fantastic. Hang on, show. Why did it block that? I don't know why it blocked that, but anyway. On Thursday nights, and it's on Thursday night. So fantastic. Thanks, Ken. All right, we'll call it quits at that. We'll see you next week, and we'll have interview with Warren and the Zygu and also the crystal set, and we might even have Garry back in with some more 897. So. Next week, 7:30, right here, and you're most welcome to come up or watch or the like. So fantastic! Thank you to everyone, and 73, and we'll catch you next time.
Bye bye.
Cheers.
Always look on the bright side of life.
Oh, definitely. Cheers.